right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and welcome all as we continue on, yes, with another edition of our Prospect Planner. That's where we go, the pursuit of the college game and more beyond the baseball field. Not just what we see on it, but a whole lot more. What's the prep like and what's everything like in the route to get there? A lot of things from technology and all throughout the whole gambit of things. Again, on our Prospect Planner piece, brought to you by RDA Financial. And again, here it is here. And again, RDA Financial helping us out as we get rocking and rolling here. And again, a lot of things to get to here. It is, well, we're about to start up Iowa high school baseball. But that doesn't mean there isn't something else in another part of the season going on. That's right, we got postseason baseball coming on up here in the junior college route, all the way from the Division I to the Division III level. We got a whole lot to talk to here. And again, this is something where I'd urge everybody to take a listen in, simply because there's a lot of schools out there, man. And which ones are making some of the biggest waves right now, we can help out with that in just a little bit. So, hey, let's dive into it here. And before I officially do so, I got to bring in the partner in crime who helps make this possible, the one and only Chad Ericson, joining us here. And again, Chad, as always, appreciate the time here. And certainly one thing to note here is this is an exciting time, right? This is such an exciting time because we have not only the start of high school ball, but we got postseason baseball coming up. And we're not just going to get one and dones here. We've got a lot of great teams in Iowa that are going to make some big waves, and it starts today. That's right. Coming up later on today, we will have some action here for you. So, but Chad, first off, I want to say thanks for joining us here as always and making this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here. Obviously, through this whole process of recruitment, I've done extensive research on all these junior colleges, and Iowa's got a lot of them, and they're really top notch. I mean, the junior college baseball world, Iowa is a factor, and that really speaks to how great these programs are. In Division II, we've got 3 nationally ranked teams. In Division I, we've got 1 nationally ranked team. And so as we ramp up into the postseason today, it's going to be great to see these teams go at it because of how the regions are set up. Only 2 Iowa teams are going to advance beyond their regional, but it's fun to see. And I know that there are coaches all across the country that really look at these programs in Iowa, and whether they're a Division I or Division II school, there's a lot of respect nationwide for these for some of these programs. So that's really a great thing for Iowa to have.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I love the fact that as we sit here, we get the chance to have these moments. And again, we've already seen a lot of this play out before. Again, not too long ago in the very, very recent past, you remember Coach Schulte and company from Southeastern going all the way as far as they could, making it to the biggest dance of it all. Unfortunately, didn't come through with the outcome they wanted, but they got that far. And they've been very, very impactful. Of course, we've known what other programs in the state have gone from Kirkwood, Iowa Central, and more. So this is fun. This is the time of year where we really get baseball up the ante. We've already have Major League Baseball going on. I will say I say that because Chad's proudly sporting the Cubs, and why not?
Right.
They're doing pretty good, Chad. I think that you could get a Rookie of the Year out of it.
It's possible. Umanaga's been pitching just incredibly. So we'll see what happens. It's a long season.
It sure is. But one thing's for sure, it's always going to be fun. And when the Cubs are in the running, it's always a fun show no matter what. But on the side note, go Braves. So I had to get that in there. But not only just baseball at the major league level, like we mentioned, but you got Division I NCAA baseball going through, getting to the final regular season stretches here, and then we're going to get into conference tournaments. What does that look like? And of course, right now, as we mentioned, junior college, JUCO ball out and just in full force. So, Chad, I think what I want us to do is let's dive into it here. I've talked enough. 5 minutes is plenty for people to hear my voice. But let's dive into it here. We got something coming out on up today here as we sit on a Thursday. So what are people going to be looking forward to? Who should we look out for, especially with that Iowa Flair coming up today?
Yeah, you bet. So let's just give a rundown here. This is Division One, Region 11. Games are going to be played at Council Bluffs, home of the Reavers, and Iowa Western's coming in. They're ranked fourth nationally, so the expectation here is that they're going to easily go through the region. Um, this is a small region, so it's a head-to-head matchup with Indian Hills, also an Iowa school. And earlier late last month in April, Iowa Western swept 3 games against Indian Hills, and Iowa Western was in control during that. So I'm not anticipating anything different is going to happen here. But Indian Hills does have some good players, and they're going to put up a fight. Offensively, they're led by Raul Torres. He's a sophomore infielder. He's led the team in RBIs and runs scored, and he's from Puerto Rico. And then on the pitching side of things, they've got a lot of depth and diversity on their team, namely Tomoki Jitsukawa
Oh, that was
leads the
good
team in
pronunciation.
ERA and 2.87 ERA on the season so far. And I don't know how they get a guy from Japan to come and play in the middle of Iowa, but they have done it, and he's throwing pretty well for them. So Indian Hills, like I said, they're going to put up a fight, and as we would all expect. I mean, on paper, you expect Iowa Western to win, but this is why you play the games. Anything can happen. Iowa Western's been ranked in the top 10 or top 5 on all kinds of different polls all through the season. It's that they're a deep staff on offense, and their pitching staff. It's a storied program. Mm-hmm. They kept rolling even after head coach moved on to Western Kentucky a few years back, and the steamroller just keeps on going. This year they've got 5 players that have over 50 RBIs each. It's just an unbelievable. It's a juggernaut of an offense led by AJ Singer. He's a former Oregon State commit out of Arizona. And that just goes to show how they can pull these kids. You know, this guy's a D1 commit. For whatever reason, he ended up at Iowa Western, and he is raking at the plate. Kyle Vidson, leading the team with 16 home runs. He's out of Jordan, Minnesota, so a little bit closer to home, but also out of the state. So they've got some big hitters in that lineup. The pitching is just as deep. Noah Scott, he's a freshman right-handed pitcher. He's from Broomfield, Colorado. Mid-90s fastball, 10-1 record on the season, 2.75 ERA, and a minuscule whip of 0.9. That's just unbelievable. Less than 1 runner per inning for Noah. And then you add Brands, Olson, Broderick right behind him. Not to be overlooked. All of these guys have an ERA around 3, and they strike people out. They're power arms. It's just one big dude after another on the mound for them. So the winner of this 3-game set is going to go on. They're going to play the Region 24 champs next week. And so we'll see what happens. Rankings mean nothing at this point. Previous records mean nothing at this point. You got to play the games. And these 2 teams are going to tango at 2 o'clock tomorrow, or 2 o'clock this afternoon. On the D2 side, also Region 11, we have 6 teams in the state of Iowa that are going to fight it out. Okay? 3 of these teams are ranked nationally. All right, let's just put that into perspective. This Division Two region is stacked. Okay, um, looking back at these three these three teams that are ranked nationally. That's Kirkwood, that's Southeastern, and that's Iowa Central. And Iowa Central is actually the highest nationally ranked team of those three. Kirkwood is in the middle, and then Southeastern just broke in and became the 10th ranked team here just recently in D2. So a really, really talented field. A lot of things can happen. So starting off this morning at 11 o'clock, it's going to be the 4 seed Northeast against the 5 seed DMAC. Okay, Northeast won 2 out of 3 in the season, but they were tight games. 2 of the 3 games were decided by 1 run. So anything could happen. Northeast is out of Norfolk, Nebraska. They're the lone Nebraska team in the region. They're just a little carve out in northeastern Nebraska in the region. If you're looking at it geographically, they're led by Cale Jensen. He's a big lefty with plenty of pop. He's out of Central City High School in Nebraska, and Cale Gravengode. He's an infielder out of West Des Moines Valley. Cade leads the team with 7 home runs. On the pitching side, they've got a right-hander, Oliver Ward. He leads the staff. He's a big dude, 6'5" from North Creek High School in Washington State. He's got a sub-3 ERA. So expect him in the series. The Northeast is going to want to get past DMAC and tangle with the number 1 seed Kirkwood. DMAC is looking to even the series up here. Yep. They got a shot to make it 2-2 on the season against Northeast and put Northeast on the losers bracket, which can be devastating if you don't have enough pitching. You see this at every level. If you lose a first round game, you got a deep hole, and it's really, really difficult to keep your pitching in order if you fail. So DMAC offensively is led by Camden Kaufman. He's a sophomore out of Waukee. He leads the team in hits, and he's got 10 home runs, and he also leads the team in RBIs on the season. So he's had a wonderful season. We'll see if he can keep that going in the postseason. And then defensively, Chance Key. He's a crafty left-hander. Yeah. His ERA is under 3, and he's a Waverly Shell Rock grad. So DMAC has some high-level Iowa boys playing for him. And it's going to be fun to see who comes out on top here. Because, like I said, of the 3 games that they've played, only 4 runs were the difference in those games. So very, very tight games, seemingly very well played as they were relatively low scoring. So this is really going to be a really good game, I would imagine, right out of the gate for the Region 11 tournament. The winner, as I said, goes on to play Kirkwood on Friday. Kirkwood's the number 1 seed. Surprisingly, even though Kirkwood is second out of these 3 nationally ranked teams, Kirkwood and Southeastern actually had a 1-game better record in conference than Iowa Central did. And that's what got them seated higher in this tournament. So Iowa Central is going to have to put their depth to the test, and we're going to talk about them in a second. But Kirkwood's strength is definitely his pitching. They've got 3 starters with an ERA below 3, Carroll, Payne, and Pemble. They could run the board. If these guys pitch well, look out.
Pemble being a Johnston grad, and we saw what Pemble could do at I believe he was part of the Little League World Series team, part of that group that went to the Little League World Series out of Johnston. Several years ago. I want to say not too far ago, but I'm starting to date myself now. That's been a while, but it's really cool to see there. I like how that whole progression has taken place, Chad. Because not only him, but you've got other guys that have been on there, that will be on there. Again, I do like that roster you mentioned. Again, Pemble's one of those guys that can come onto the mound. We saw what he did at the state tournaments here in Iowa, and what he's doing now at the JUCO route at the collegiate level. That is really fun to watch, and it's really good to see all those guys get that thing. So for everybody out there, I mean, you can. This is kind of, if you get the chance, track this, man. I mean, how this is so cool to see these guys move up. You mentioned Chance Key out of Waverly Shell Rock. We got to see him in a state tournament, I believe, and he was really fun to watch. So a lot of guys. We'll talk, like you mentioned, about some more coming on up, but these are guys that right now are in JUCO, but will be at the Division I level or further coming up in a few years. So this is kind of that chance where you can really get on board and on their train now and ride those tracks as long as you can once they get to the next level as well. So yeah, I think it's a dogfight, and you mentioned one conference win separates Iowa Central from being a host, from being in more of a driver's seat situation. And I think that you get to it, and people, I think a lot of us look at it when you get to the Junior College World Series, and we don't necessarily look at it at this point and go, man, there's a lot at stake here. I mean, yes, the whole thought about JUCOs, you get preparation now, you go on to the next level. But there's a lot at stake here. They're putting as much fun into it and time into it, and we've talked about it before, you and I, and on this show in general. But again, one loss will separate, again, nationally ranked teams from being a 1 versus a 3 seed. That's just crazy in my book, but that's what you get here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just the like I said, the conference is deep. I would argue that this conference is the deepest conference in the country as far as talent goes, and that's to me that's just unbelievable. The Kirkwood also has some great offensive players. There are a lot of them, but Clayton Campadile.
He is by far one. Chad, I'll say one thing. He is by far one of the coolest level-headed guys out there. And by the way, I think I don't quote me on it. You can if you want, just to throw it around. But he is one of, if not the only, Iowa high school player to hit a home run out of Lone Depot Park in Miami as part of the Power Showcase that he did a few years ago, in which we had him and Clayton Bolkema on. And he's one of the very few, if not, I believe the only, but I'm going to leave it out and say one of few, because it can't be very much outside of that. The showcase hasn't been around relatively that long, so I don't know if anyone else would have gotten the chance, but this guy has supernatural power. And this is a name that I swear to you will be at the D1 level somewhere big coming on up in the next few years.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me. He's doing this as a freshman. 12 home runs, 52 RBIs on the season. This guy's got power, and he has shown it. And when you look at the conference that he's playing in and the pitching that he goes against on a day-to-day basis, I mean, these are impressive numbers for a freshman, right? Because there are plenty. I was going up and down these rosters today, and there are plenty of redshirt freshmen. There are plenty of sophomores on these teams, and 1 year at this level can make a huge difference to a player. I mean, we've seen that happen time and time again. So ultimately. Okay, Kirkwood, this game is going to happen Friday at 2:30.
Okay? Friday at 2:30. All right.
Friday at 2:30 is when Kirkwood's first opportunity to take the field will happen, and we'll see if it's going to be DMAC or Northeast. It'll be fun to see what happens there, because, like I said, it's going to be a tight matchup.
Yeah.
Okay, so today, I'm sorry. So the I got my wrong paper out here.
Hey, I do
All
that
right,
all the time with two screens. Imagine paper,
right, yeah. So we got some thunder rolling through here as we're recording. So hopefully
Ooh,
it's not going to affect
that
things
makes
too
it
bad.
fun. You could strike lightning in a bottle with your words here, Chad, and then
There you
go
go.
outside and actually get some lightning. So you can double dip here.
Right. So, like I mentioned, Iowa Central, they're the 3 seed, remarkably. They
Crazy.
are number 4 in the country, but they are the 3 seed in this tournament. Okay. And Iowa Central is taking on North Iowa Area Community College. Iowa Central won 2 out of 3 in Fort Dodge in early April against these guys. So North Iowa did take a game, and that's all it takes, right? It takes one win to advance and put the other
Yep.
team in the losers bracket. So you have to have this first game. This first game is critical. You
Yeah.
don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball with your pitching.
And
So,
I will say with that too, Chad, Iowa Central, if there is any team that could be labeled a 3 seed, I mean, by technicality, they're labeled a 3 seed, like you were saying. But if any team could do this and get through it, you talk about baseball, one hit, one swing, like you're mentioning, a lot of just one opportunity can send you off and to win or a loss. And of course they've got the leader in runs batted in. Harrison Bowman is kind of the man there, right? I mean, it's the 89 runs batted in, and don't forget that the former Dowling Catholic star Cooper Nicholson, 19 home runs, part of the top 5 in that. Harrison Bowman, 16 with that. So you got to assume here that they're going to be a big factor when it comes to this. And you mentioned their depth. I mean, man, it'll be tested, but how that could easily turn on its end. You could get guys that you're all of a sudden up 5-0, and you don't have to rely on that depth until the next game. And we've constantly seen that with the number of the number of games they put up cricket numbers. It's easy to see that this is the team that could very well, if at any team, make their way through this bracket
yeah.
as a 3 seed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that North Iowa is probably going to run out John Lyman, a lefty.
Nyack from
He's
Nyack,
probably
yeah.
their best bet to get through this first game. So I would imagine they're going to throw the big lefty out on the mound, and he's good at keeping guys off base, and that's what this is all about, right? So
Yep.
really, when you look at the stats of these pitchers, um, there's a lot of base runners in junior college. People struggle throwing strikes. People, when they do throw strikes, get hit a lot. They may have a good ERA, but you look at the walks and hits versus innings pitched, and there are very few pitchers across all of these teams that we've spoken about that have a whip of 1 or below.
Yep.
That is a better indicator for me than ERA.
And I
So
think I think ERA is so misleading at that. I love how you brought that up, because ERA has so much that's out of the control of the pitcher that I almost don't even look at it anymore,
right,
especially
right.
at the high school level. I look at it for a little bit of context, and I hope a lot of others do in the college world as well. But yeah, I love how you mentioned that, because ERA is no longer what it used to be.
That's absolutely right. And then you could get into the advanced metrics too and look at fielding independent pitching,
Yep.
uh,
Love
and,
FIP.
and put another twist on it. But you know, North Iowa, they've got some guys on offense too. Eli Anderson, he's a
Yep.
speedy left-hander out of Fairmont, Minnesota. 32 stolen bases. He's the batting average leader of the team. Um, Isaac Hudel, he's a power hitting catcher. He's got 800. He's got 8 home runs out of Mandan. So they can do some damage offensively too, North Iowa. But when you look at Iowa Central, uh, they are way superior on paper than a lot of teams in the entirety of junior college at the Division II level and even the Division I level. You mentioned the two guys I had in front of me in my notes, Andrew, but honestly, this team is so deep. They have 6 hitters with 10 or more home runs.
Yeah,
That's just unbelievable. Imagine that lineup coming up. Those guys can put the ball out of the park at any point in time, and that is dangerous. It puts a lot of pressure, nonstop pressure on a pitching staff. So expect those guys to be sitting on fastballs, and if you're serving them up, they better be really good if you're the
yeah.
pitcher.
Well, and
Um,
I will say that if anybody could make a really big first round test, Coach Josh Merrill, Nyack, as you mentioned, he could do that. I mean, what we get here though is kind of a different flair in the end because what you have is more of an experienced coach with Iowa not Iowa Western with Iowa Central. You get more of an experienced coach versus, and I'm not saying experience. Coach Merrill has been there. He's been with the University of Southern Indiana before this, but Coach Merrill in his second year at Nyack, he has a great mind for the game, and he's been really good on the recruiting trail. He's been very good about organic first and then outside, just like every college here in the state is. But I think that the mindset they have, and they're a scrappy team. I think that they can do that. But Iowa Central, I mean, they've had their established coach for a while. Coach Merrill, again, in just his second year with Nyack. So what you get there is, a guy who's kind of been around this type of baseball, this brand of baseball in Iowa. And Coach Merrill just coming into this. But I got to say, I don't know if you're going to get two better baseball minds than what we're going to have there. Again, coach, and that's saying with Coach Rima and company as well. I think every one of them is on a huge level. And but again, I will say I love what Coach Merrill brings to the table, and I think that he could give anybody a run for their money.
tell you what, in games like this, coaching can definitely be a factor.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's a chess match at times. Yeah,
Mm.
but it not only is Iowa Central got great coaching and got great hitting, but they are deep on the pitching side as well. There are really 4 solid starters in the rotation, led by Josh Kirkhoff from Concordia Academy
Yep.
in Minnesota. I mean, mid 90s fastball, 91 strikeouts in almost 65 innings. So this guy's getting guys out at a high rate, and he's got more arms than most teams do at Iowa Central to put to his disposal. So really, the only way to really, in my mind, defeat Iowa Central is if you pull an upset, you put them on the back of the bracket where they've got to use all of that pitching up. That's really your only hope, because if they win and they keep their pitching in order, it's trouble for the field.
Well, and on top of that, think about this. You have trouble scoring right off the bat, and then you get this team to come up there, and already, as we mentioned, some heavy hitters nationally. This is some nationally heavy hitters, and then the fact that you look at it, 81 stolen bases on the year is something that you have to note. Again, I think that's very impressive to note because they've only been caught 10 times. And so now you got a team again with an experienced coach, with some just dudes who can also rake on the base paths as well. I mean, you got quite the recipe for, again, as I mentioned earlier, a game to go from 1 run to 5 runs to more. And again, you look at it, well over 5-10 games in which they have been able to sport double-digit runs. So this is a fluid team who can just score at will, and you got to be just as strong defensively. And I think again, Nyack's going to have the hardest time of their lives, and if they can get through it, then Nyack to me will probably be one of the favorites if they can win this kind of game because I know it's a one and it's just one win, but now you're getting into gut check time, and you've seen this. Your hat it speaks to that here, Chad. You get hot at the right time at any level, and you will run the gambit through all the teams that people think that you're going to get beat by. So it's truly a fun time. But yeah, I think that if there is a David versus Goliath matchup that we see across the NGCAA, I think that this might just be it. But again, that stone could hit just right. So I mean, you can't certainly, and I know Iowa Central's not overlooking that.
No, I'm sure they're not, especially after dropping one game to them earlier this season. And I know people say lightning doesn't strike twice, but it absolutely does.
Yes, it
So
does.
anything can happen. Anything can happen. And the winner of this game is going to go on and play Southeastern, who, oh my gosh, Southeastern, number 2 seed in the tournament, number 10 ranked team in the country. So there is no rest for the wicked on this side of the bracket. You are going to have to play your heart out in this tournament. And so Southeastern out of West Burlington, they have deep pitching, but they're not a high K team. So they don't strike out a lot of guys. And that's not what you normally see at this level. You normally see a lot of power arms, guys that are striking a lot of people out,
Yep.
but that is not what's happening with this baseball team. But these pitchers are highly effective. Okay. You look
Yeah.
at Maddox Freeze, he's a freshman right hander from
Oh,
Cedar Rapids Prairie.
yeah, man.
And he's got a 6-1 record in 9 starts, ERA just over 2. He has only had 6 walks in 45 innings. I don't know the last time I saw a pitcher that threw that well, especially at the college level, let alone the major league level, to have that low of a walk rate. And I just think, I don't know who his mom and dad are, but they named him Maddox, and the name is working.
Well, I will say that's baseball lineage you're talking about here. Mr. Freeze was a pitcher at the major league level, at the professional level, and gosh, it translated well to his kids. I gotta say, and also shout out to Nikki Freeze, phenomenal individual. I think she knows just as much about the game as anybody out there. And so if I think she also puts on Strikeout the Stigma event, which I got to give a shout out because that was amazing. But yeah, that's a baseball lineage there, and it shows. It's glaringly obvious. And not just that baseball lineage, but get this. You also have Cooper Schulte, who, if you didn't quite, if nobody out there quite understood who the coach was, Coach Schulte, the guy who runs the ship there at Southeastern, he is the father of Cooper. And I got to tell you what, if I've ever seen a guy, a kid that could just run a team to the atmosphere, stratosphere, Cooper Schulte can. And again, he was with Central Arizona, I do believe. He transferred out and now is smack dab here with this great program. And not just that, but I mean, think about it. This was a kid who thrived at New London. We saw New London make one of the first few state tournament runs that I've seen from them in a long time, let alone a state tournament title win not too long ago. And he was a part of that. Goes on, and now you got guys coming up like Caleb Wolf out of West Liberty, and of course Marcus Beatty out of Independence. Both guys that were looked at that had, and again, all these guys had looks at Sam Skerich out of North Scott as well. But these are all dudes who were the dudes on their teams, right? And so now you get a whole team of the dudes. You could call
That's
this
right.
team the dudes. I think you could. They might. They might already.
That's right. Well, and that's good reason they're ranked 10th in the country, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm going to be paying very close attention to this tournament this weekend because I think that, man, you're not getting much better baseball anywhere else,
Yeah.
honestly. You're going to see some fantastic stuff. I don't have a link to whether these games are being live streamed, but check the Twitter feeds from all of these
Yep.
teams in this tournament. It's possible somebody's doing a live stream. If you want to watch these games, I think it'd be a good investment of time because you're going to see some outstanding baseball, and it's just unbelievable. It's a deep field, so anything can happen,
Yep.
right? If you like pitching, Kirkwood is a team that you're going to be wanting to pay close attention to. If you like hitting, it's Iowa Central. But Iowa Central is probably the most balanced team out of anyone in the field in regard to talent on the mound, talent in the field. I think they have the most balance, maybe overall the most talent. But there are some really talented guys on all of these teams that are going to be a factor. They're going to be out to take down. Even though Iowa Central is the number 3 seed in this tournament, I got to believe everybody's gunning for them, right? They're top 5
Yep.
in the country. We are coming for you, right? And so the winner of this plays the Region 13 champion in the North Plains District, which I believe the Region 13 is Minnesota. So,
Yep.
but don't quote me on that. I may be a little wrong there. I'm still learning all the geography of the regions, but I wanted to take the time today. I got really excited as I started looking at these tournaments and really my Twitter feed's been full of all kinds of junior college stuff for months now,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
just
I bet.
just seeing all of these great teams in the state of Iowa. I mean, holy cow. It's a great thing that we have here. The high school season's getting started and we're going to see a lot of great baseball there, but don't ignore the junior college ranks in the state of Iowa because there are some outstanding baseball programs here, top notch nationally, and I can't state it enough times. It's exciting. It's exciting to have this kind of baseball in Iowa.
Oh, by far. And we're so blessed again. And that includes everybody all the way down, like we said, from Nyack to Iowa Western, Kirkwood, Southeastern, beyond that as well. Of course, like you mentioned, a big shout out to Iowa Western, Indian Hills. Again, Iowa Western under, I think, second year for Coach Kugel. And he took over, like you mentioned, Coach Reardon, who has been a phenom at Western Kentucky. So I will say big shout out to Coach Kugel as well. He had kind of a mass exodus once Reardon left Iowa Western, so he kind of he got to shape it as his own, but he kind of had to go, okay, I have to fill a lot of positions, and so I just wanted to give a shout out to him where he's due. He has made his first season 19 straight wins. That's something to be said, and just coming on in. The guy's obviously a baseball guru, and he fits so well into what all these coaches in Iowa are doing, which are just baseball guru central. And I hear you, man. This is, you'll buckle up. Let's have some fun here, and these guys are going to provide that fun. And everybody, check it out. This is just as exciting as you get to the D1 level, right? I mean, you're going to see these guys there anyway, and they get all this experience, all this tout and all this praise, and for the right reasons, right? They're in it, and they get to the next level, and they're as invested as anybody. So, I mean, let's buckle up and go. Let's do this.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be some outstanding baseball this weekend. And then we have opening day on Monday for the high school season. So let's go.
Let's do this. Hey, Chad, I've been so ready. I didn't realize how ready I was when I got my scorebook and everything set ready, and I'm going, oh man, days. I have some days yet. But how fun is that to say days, not weeks, not months. We're not a year away. Oh man. If this could be a bi-yearly thing, I think we both would be sitting in heaven just We could just have 2 seasons of baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if we play our cards right, we can always go and follow the fall season and see how all these travel teams are doing in the fall.
Hey, you know what? Get me signed up. I am on board. These guys, I mean, guys that go on the fall tour like this, I mean, you're getting guys that are so dedicated to the game, and they find ways to get onto the base pass that I never knew existed. So, kudos to everybody who's in that. But yeah, again, can't wait for what's coming up this weekend, man. Today, big action. Tomorrow, big action. Don't forget that all these guys, and if you get a chance, thank all these coaches because they're helping these kids, these athletes, not kids. They're helping these guys, these athletes, to get to that next level as well. So appreciate it. But Chad, again, thanks for the insight, man. Thanks for bringing out all the stats. It's not always easy to get that. I know you had to do some digging into some unknown trenches to find all this stuff. So appreciate you doing that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. There was going back and forth between some different databases that I know about, and I didn't break any laws, so that's good.
There you go.
And it was a lot of fun. The next time I do it, if we're doing this again next year, we can do this out again next year when the playoffs come around, and it'll be a lot faster for me next year. I'll know exactly what to do, and I'll be a little more prepared this year. So, but I'm looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be a great weekend of baseball leading right into the high school season.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, hey, make sure to check it on out again coming up today and beyond. Check out some great stuff here. We'll do our best to make sure we repost that on social media and give us a shout out to if there's anything that you think we should keep our eye on even more than we may already do so. So for Chad Ericson and myself, Andrew Brown, thanks for listening in to the Prospect Planner, the pursuit of the college game, which you will see beyond the baseball field. All right. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, and stay safe on the base paths.